to get tools to start than it is today. Because at the moment, Amazon seems to be completely filled with blacksmithing tools, but back in the day, I had to build it myself or find it used on eBay. So let's get stuck in. I wonder what this could be.
Pair of pliers?
I think we typically use tongs more than pliers, so I'd hope it's just a good pair of tongs. Ugh! It's a hammer! Blacksmith hammer, 1,000 grams, Swedish pattern of ash hammer. Blacksmith tool, £30 and 99 pence. It is a cross-peen hammer, but the cross-peen is quite nasty. Ugh. It's got a slight bend to the right. It is actually square with the hammer itself, but the hammer is not square to the shaft. The surface finish on the face is frankly abysmal. The handle has this nasty paint for absolutely no purpose, and this thick plasticky lacquer that I absolutely hate. But for £31, I'm not surprised, and it's potentially more useful than something you're gonna get at the hardware store. Now what I would do is this. Smooth off the edges a little bit. You can see when they forged this, the last thing they did was they smashed it this way in the dies like that, because that peen also has a little cupping going on. We will test that in a minute. Next up, tongs. Vivo blacksmith tongs, 18-inch V-bit tongs, carbon steel forged tongs with A3 steel rivets for long, irregular, and nail-shaped forgings. £22.96. Tough tools, half price. Now these are serviceable, but feel awful in the hands. Let's have a look at a nice example of tongs. These are made by Steve Howell at Ballard Forge. You see, the reins taper from thick, where you need it most, to thin, where it doesn't need to be as thick, meaning that they weigh a lot less than this pair. They've got a V-bit, which is great, because it means you can hold round stock as well as square, and a cutout on the side that is a bit rickety. So they'll definitely hold stuff, and they'll definitely get you away from the heat. And these are the tongs that can help you make your own improvements as you progress. And for 20 quid, I don't think they're bad. Look, Jamie, it came with a little manual. I've never seen a user manual for a pair of tongs. That is absolutely hilarious. Oh, how about this? Oh, it's a twofer. Just taped to one another. Ah, more tongs. What we have here is a wolf jaw tong, because it looks like a wolf. And these exist made by actual tong manufacturers, and I've always found them to be a bit of a gimmick. When I was starting, I bought a pair of wolf jaw tongs. They're meant to be slightly universal tongs that can hold all sorts of things in all sorts of different ways. And frankly, it's kind of like a Swiss Army knife. When you try and do too many things at once, you end up not good at any one particular thing that you're doing. Instead of a pair of tongs that holds material really well down the middle, it holds it like crap down the middle.
But it also holds it like crap sideways.
Exactly. Where a pair of tongs would just hold them really well down the middle, and also much better adjusted. You see, when your tongs are on material that fits good, you don't want the reins to be too open, because then you've got to stretch your hand out to get on them. These holding nothing at all. The reins are already pretty far open. You put stock that looks like it's designed for it inside there, that's just miserable. So you need to adjust these before you could even do anything. But fortunately, they're really poorly designed, so we can just go ahead and bend them by ourselves. Now they're better adjusted. The thinnest point in its entire cross-section is right up here by the pivot, where all this material is experiencing the greatest amount of force. 750 grams, 790 grams. This pair of tongs I made is even lighter, but look how beefy it is in here by the pivot. Everything just has mass where it needs it, but is thin and light where it doesn't. It's the complete polar opposite of the cheap pair from Amazon. And what's funny is, I've got a funny story to tell about this exact pair of tongs. When I was 16 years old and I'd just head out into the world on my own, trying to make a living as a blacksmith, one day I had no money. And so I lit the forge and I made this pair of tongs and I put a picture of them on eBay and said, blacksmith tongs for sale, 3 to 5 day lead time. And what's hilarious is I was hand making tongs for £21 on eBay, and this 4-pack of garbage cost £92 and are £23 a pair, even more expensive than the beautiful ones I was making back in the day. Anyway, let's light the forge and test these things. Wait, Jamie, what am I doing? Why am I using my forge when I think we've got Amazon's finest? My first ever forge was a pile of fire bricks on top of a paving slab, charcoal from the petrol station. But nowadays, you can get something like this on Amazon Prime.
If suddenly you need to be a blacksmith tomorrow, you could just buy all of this stuff.
Exactly. And Jamie, It comes with free cancer. This is the Viva Portable Propane Forge, 1-burner Farrier Forge, 2600 degrees F, tool and knife making, blacksmithing gas forge, large capacity square stainless steel gas. Purchase for £86.99. $100 gets you a forge these days, but is it any good? First impressions, no. Wow, they just cheap out on the thinnest brick possible, and it is completely uncovered KO wool. Ceramic fiber blanket. This right here is one of the most incredible thermal insulators for high temperature stuff. I mean, it's just phenomenal. But it's also incredibly bad for you and is a carcinogen. In my forge, there is KO wool or ceramic fiber blanket, but it's hidden up here, and I covered it with this cast refractory cement. Same thing with the floor. 2 inches of cast refractory and then 2 inches of ceramic fiber blanket. This is the nozzle that makes the venturi. That slides in there. Propane comes through the line at high pressure. When the high pressure gas shoots down, the venturi effect sucks in air through those holes, hopefully get us a hot flame. Tiniest little adorable thumb screw. Oh wow, that is a cheap fitting. Oh, it's so kinky. Whoops. Wow, okay, I think we found a design problem already. This thing is so light, you can tip it over really easily. I'm gonna need to put it on something. Today on What Not to Do. Oh, look at that beautiful welding.
Looks like yours.
I know. Again, these feet are trash. They give you no hose. That's insanity. Comes with a regulator in delightfully high quality. Everything is just so crap. Look at this. It's like a toy. Let the gas in. Hey, sounds like a gas forge. I'm gonna crank it all the way, on all the pressure. This is how you adjust it. Like that, you see there's no air, air. I just burnt my hand. So what I think is, this thing is not gonna get hot enough because it has no doors. What I also think is that if you do buy a forge like that, don't use it in an enclosed space. Be outside, nice flowing breeze, or coat the ceramic wool in something. Put this search term into Google and find some nice high temperature refractory, mix it up thick and slop it all over the wall. Something that I struggle to reconcile is the fact that on the one hand, I do
Почекай, йду я перекурю тоді, що таки ми не
like this
граємо.
little Amazon Air deburrer. It was like $40. There is no way. This is a
Зараз буде.
representation of a high-end tool. But there are some things where I
Вийду в цей,
really
дивись.
want the
Ходи
best
сюди,
quality.
цей.
I want a good
Дивись.
hammer. I want comfortable hearing protection. And by
Вики
God, do I want
гарний має.
comfortable underwear. I feel
У мене краще. А ти купив це теж з Amazon.
Ні, це тато заказав. Я це не купував.
Не знаю. Я вже.
пішов.
Давай.
feel like, for a lot of my life, I have been tormented by uncomfortable underwear. Underwear that needs rearranging, that bunches up and is uncomfortable, that sticks, that chafes. Ugh. And so I am thrilled that MeUndies has come on as a sponsor because I love their underwear. They are made of a fabulous, stretchy, breathable, and delightfully soft micro-modal fabric. They come in all sorts of styles, whether you like your underwear short or a little bit longer, and they come in an incredible range of colors and patterns if you're feeling extra bold. I wear them when I'm running, when I'm decoying, and here in the shop. When I get sweaty, I'm still comfy because they breathe really well. And every day wearing MeUndies is just that little bit better. And they've got some whopping good deals on for the holiday season. So get those savings all month long by going to meundies.com/forge. Use code FORGE at checkout. Save yourself some cash on some delightful underwear for you or a loved one. Let's get back to it. So we'll see how long that takes to heat up, but we also have another. I bought the big boy version. For £13 more, £99, 76 pence, you can buy the double burner version. And this time, they even give you 1.5 bricks. How lucky! Nice. I like how that lines up. Open, open. There we go, she's underway. What on earth is melting in there? Something's melting. Did I leave some plastic in there? We're 18 minutes in. Our double burner is a respectable 1279. Whoa, look at that. Single burner got up to 1307 Celsius. Got some 12mm or half-inch round stock. We'll test out the Viva bolt tongs and these wolf jaw tongs. Look how uneven the heat is. That is because we don't have forge doors. We'll test this too. We've been heating about 4.5 minutes. First up, the Viva bolt jaw tongs. Well, they're holding it. They don't feel very nice in the hand. but they're definitely holding it, and it's not moving around too much. And the hammer is doing a perfectly fine job. The hammer just feels a little bit weird, but I can produce a plenty clean forging. The workpiece is slipping into the tongs, but that's fairly normal. For the money and Amazon Prime, I think the V4s are a pretty good start. And now the Wolf Jaws, it doesn't have near deep enough grooves. They're not set very well for this size of stock. They're still too wide in my left hand here. But you know what? They're holding the material. Yeah, they're doing it. I really don't want to admit it. I think it just shows that I'm a bit of a tool snob more than anything, but they did a perfectly fine job. They feel pretty nasty in the hand, but these are not going to be the limiting factor in terms of what you can make in the workshop. The forges seem to be doing pretty good. All they really need is, they need doors. Now this is gonna make them so much more efficient. Wow, these are awful. The other tongs in this range are so sticky. Awful feel. Look at that, they're basically riveted shut. Doing this won't cost a lot of money, but it'll help these forges run a lot nicer. Also, don't do this, and do not put your forges on a wooden table. You're looking for heavy fire bricks, and they should only be about $5 a pop. This is gonna help get a much more even heat throughout the forge, and obviously, it's what we do in our actual forge. Even after just a few minutes, that temperature is much more even through that bar. Try these funny tongs. These are designed for gripping onto flat bar this way. There we go, like that. This gripping flat bar can be a bit sketchy. If you grip flat bar and something like this, material can twist around a lot. It can get a little bit scary, because if you're not careful, you can catapult out the material. Look how wibbly wobbly that is. The paint is already burning off the double burner forge. It stinks. Well, they're holding it. I have a theory that I've been working on, which is the quality of equipment or tools that you use is more relevant the less experienced you are. But the irony is that at the beginning of any pursuit, we end up cheaping out on tools and equipment because you want to see if it's something that you want to try. But I think that when you're new to something, there is a disproportionate benefit to having the best tools as compared to when you're not new to something. Because the ergonomics just makes sense. In this case, the hammer's less likely to leave ugly dents. In this case, the tongs are lighter, causing less fatigue in your hand. It's a serious concern when somebody's new to this stuff. But then, of course, the more you practice a given discipline, the better you get, the less relevant the quality of tools is. Somebody with a ton of experience can make do with ugly crap tools and do beautiful work. And I know that kind of goes against this whole theme of this video, which is, hey, have a look at these inexpensive tools that you could use to start blacksmithing. You know, it's just there's pros and cons to everything. And I think that as a beginner, good tools do help you more, but it doesn't mean you need to act on that information. For the money, you can get yourself a really good start. And I think that's what I'm learning today. The fact that I could be heating steel, oh, I got scale on me, it hurts. To forge welding temperature in a 99-pound forge is mind-blowing to me. I've got to say that I think you're getting a better forge from the nasty paint-covered one than you are with the single burner. Relative to the volume, you're getting more than twice the amount of burner input, because that is not double the volume. So I hate to say it, because you can end up using twice as much gas. But if you want to do any sort of forge welding, or maybe even make some Damascus steel, the double burner is going to be what you need. This one doesn't seem to do quite as well. But for anything below forge welding temperature, it's done the job. You just gotta be careful about the ceramic blanket. Don't use it in an enclosed space like we are. But that's a perfectly good forge if it wasn't for that ceramic fiber blanket. Right, we've been doing all this forging on this
Disgusting anvil when you got 3 perfectly lovely anvils here.
Ow here, Jamie. This thing
Czułeś
is my
te
baby.
frajero.
But yes, hopefully we have our upgrades.
Jakby ty palec w fraku zasunąty?
Right, are you trying to tell me that there's an anvil in that box?
Ty palisz czy
Yes, and
palci?
this is one of the interesting things about anvils is it's quite misleading when you search for them on the internet, because you type in anvil on Amazon, they show you a picture that makes it look like it's, you know, big, but actually, it's not so big.
I know you started blacksmithing when you were really young, but that's just taking the mick, isn't it?
I think this might have suited me aged 4. But that's number 1.
Are you sure it's actually for blacksmithing? It's not just some novelty doorstop or something?
See what, this would make a really good doorstop. Next up, I accidentally bought 2 of the identical anvil, and this is the V4 cast iron anvil, 22 pounds, 10 kilograms, single horn anvil with large countertop and stable base. It says it's a single horn anvil, but that's actually a lie. This is a double horn anvil. It has a round, see how round that is, Jamie? Have you ever seen anything rounder in your life? And a square horn. It has a hardy hole, still featuring a burr from machining, so that's good. They did a nice deburring effort, and it cost £30 and 31 pence. $40! Even though it's tiny, that's pretty surprising to me. £3 per kilo, or about $1.30 per pound. Compare that to this. This anvil weighs 140 pounds, and we sold it for about $1,400. So this cost $10 a pound. That's be a good doorstop.
You normally put a doorstop on a door that doesn't stop itself, but that one does.
So that I can really efficiently run to the toilet to puke as we unbox these tools. Next up. Hello. That is an absolute abomination. That's disgusting. How is this even possible? My dog produces nicer creations 2 times a day. They even went to the extent of surface grinding the face of this bit of relentless garbage. This is the Katsu Blacksmith's Anvil, 75 pounds, 35 kilos, cast iron anvil with single horn for metalwork, body shop, jewelry making, welding workshop, 402450007. And I purchased it for the low price of £98.99. Initial impressions, that is not a round horn, that is a flat surface that just goes to a point. The only thing this has going for it is this surface looks to be pretty flat. A pretty decently flat surface. I mean, it's not perfect, nowhere near. And it does have an almost usable sized hardy hole. How about this one? You actually look fairly attractive. This would absolutely not pass quality control of one of our anvils. The horn is definitely rounder than on the little 10 kilo example. But there is just so much schmutz from casting defects. And by the look of it, this thing was poured through a sprue that came in at the side there. And that just hasn't been cleaned up anywhere near an acceptable amount. It looks like we're looking at the best example of an anvil to actually start forging on, though. This is the Happy Buy single horn anvil, 50 kilograms, 110 pounds, cast steel anvil, blacksmith, 4 steel tools with round and square hole, blacksmith's jewelers, durable and robust. And I purchased it for £219.99. That's about $2
Це
a
виглядає,
pound,
бо у нього забагато
20%
грошей.
of the cost per weight
Завалялося.
of this made in the USA example. Now, every single one of these needs some work before you can really have a nice time forging on them. And so, with the help of an angle grinder and a die grinder, we're going to go ahead and clean up the edges so that we have a little bit of a rounded edge to work off of. We'll get some of the paint off the horns and put a little radius in our holes. Compared to this anvil. That is cast iron. That is definitely cast steel.
Were you aware that this anvil is the same as this anvil?
Yeah, supposed to be the same manufacturer, eh? Acciaio! It also looks to be designed off an Italian pattern. This one, on the other hand, is...
Wasn't designed.
No. You know, like when they ask you to, hey, out of your memory, draw a bicycle. And if you have a really bad photographic memory, something... Jamie, draw a bicycle. That was actually really phenomenal. You did a good job. Right, from memory, draw the Starbucks logo.
Starbucks logo?
Yeah.
I don't even like Starbucks. Yeah, this one's not as good.
So this anvil is to a real anvil what that is to the Starbucks logo.
What even is that meant to be?
So there's a few things that are important in an anvil. When you hit it, you don't want it to dent. The anvil has come out the winner, I must say. It's harder than the hammer. Not awful. Like butter. That is hilarious. That, my friends, is cast iron. You can even spread it on your toast for a nice breakfast treat. Again, actual hardened steel. Potentially a little bit softer than the small one. Ooh! That's why you don't hit hard things against hard things. We just took a chip out of there. The old classic file test, shall we? If it skates a file, you know it's hard. Well, it's definitely not harder than this file. Oh, delightful. The file is definitely cutting it, but nowhere near as soft as this one. Next up, the ball bearing test. When you're swinging a hammer, you want the hammer to bounce back up, save you the work of having to lift it up every time. And so it is generally preferred to have an anvil with good rebound. 12-inch drop. What's that, about 4 inches? 30%. Oh, about 30% again. Oh my goodness! Wow! I did not expect to be liking you so much. Is it just a soft spot? No. The middle of the anvil is soft. This anvil is just too soft. It's denting on the face. This one is hard. I think that this thing hasn't quenched fast enough to harden as compared to the small one, which obviously can quench faster. Oh yeah! That's a proper anvil, like the forge. This little anvil has got a tremendous advantage that it's on the big anvil. Yep, that's a perfectly fine anvil. You could forge a ton of stuff on this thing if it was mounted properly. You know, the whole reason an anvil is because it is a steel block. And that block has an inertia to it so that you can hammer against it. This thing, being 10 kilos, is miniature. If you don't have a solid base for it, it's going to suck. This, to me, looks like a perfectly serviceable little anvil if you can get it on something solid. How about the horn? You know, technically you can make round things on it. I hate to say anything positive about this one, but it does have something special going for it. It has holes for bolts. When an anvil needs to be solidly mounted to things, it's very important that it has a nice way of mounting it. That's why when we made ours, we included bolt holes. That was a hugely important part of my design consideration. And something like this is way more of a hassle to mount. I mean, at the end of the day, it's doing what it needs to do, but it does not feel very lively. That tiny little anvil was a lot more responsive, a lot more rebound. You can feel it. But you could forge things on this. You could forge knives. You could forge trinkets, hooks, arrowheads. You know, the round horn's an abomination, but you don't actually usually use the round horn as a perfect circle. And so you could do some stuff. Yep, that right there is a perfectly fine anvil. It might be a little bit soft, but by goodness, that's okay. Try not to hit it with your hammer. Not too many mishits. And the horn is the best horn of all of them. By the way, this forge is absolutely cooking. You can weld Damascus in that, no problem. Jamie, look at this forge. When the burner shut off, there was no longer any airflow pushing down. The hot air rose up and has melted this hose. That is a serious safety concern with this single burner model. You would need to take this out after every single use. Because when you shut it off, you then go ahead and open your thing in the morning. It's now coming out of here. That really makes me believe even more that the double burner is a better model to have, because obviously the hot gases are not coming straight up to this hose. This is pretty cool right here. Very hot there, but pretty cool here. So this is a better design, safer, apart from the KO wool and flogging a dead horse there. So for 180 to 290 pounds, depending on whether you get this or whether you get that, you'd have everything that you need, apart from the propane and some extra bricks, to do this stuff. And I think, and it's very much up for debate, but I think that is a sign that we are living in a really incredible time, that it's that inexpensive to try a craft like this. You definitely get what you pay.
Запускай папку.
Я думав, ти скажеш, зараз починаємо теж, блядь.
О.
Починаємо кувати. Блядь, ти мене